Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, and I am excited to have you joining us today. As you are logging in here today and joining us, I am excited to see who's joining us. Please drop in your name and where you're joining us from, what your business is. Tell us a little bit about you as you're joining the community. Love to always see the chat box lighting up during these, and I am so stoked about this topic. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I think podcasting is one of those things that probably brings the most joy to me in all of the things that I do in my business. I get to have so many wonderful conversations. I get to have, I get to, I get to learn from some of the guests that I get to bring onto my community. I make amazing connections, and I get to bring clients into my business from podcasting. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is how do we do that? So as you guys are logging in here, please drop in your name and where you're joining us from and what your business is so that, you can get to see who's here in the room. And that's always fun and exciting. And I am going to dive right in because we have a lot to cover in the next 90 minutes. There's a lot that I'm going to be bringing to you guys. And it's good stuff. It's juicy, good stuff. And I can't wait to be sharing it with you. So let's dive in. So I'm Cami Gellner. If you are new to me, I've been in as a business coach. I've been business coaching. I've been a coach for 15 years. I've been a business coach for over a decade. I have been podcasting for 8 years. My podcast, Extraordinary Women Radio, is one of the top 1.5% podcasts out there. So that's really exciting for me. And I am excited to be sharing what I have learned on my podcasting journey. I have done both guest podcasting and had my own show. So that's what we're going to be covering. And one of the things that I am obsessed with is really helping women raise up their voices. I am on a mission to raise up 1 million voices of women around the world, helping them put their messages out in the world, create that ripple effect of impact, and really make a difference with the work you're here to do. I believe right now, women's wisdom is the medicine our earth needs. Let me tell you, our world needs your work. So that's why I am so passionate about this. So it's great seeing you guys as you're logging in here and seeing where you're joining from. So keep bringing that into the chat box and let us know who's here in the circle. And let's dive into what we are going to cover today. So we're going to talk about why podcasting is really one of the most effective tools to really get your voice out in the world, to be seen, to be heard, and why it's easy. We get to do this in our home, right? We get to do this. We don't have to jump on a plane and reach a whole lot of people that way. We can do this right from our home with some very basic tools, and we'll be diving into tools and that sort of thing as well. We're going to talk about what you need to start your own podcast if you are thinking about starting a show yourself, and how you can really leverage that every episode for growth. Like, how do you leverage that? How do you attract clients into your business? We're going to talk about how guest podcasting helps you tap into new aligned audiences who are ready to buy from you because they've been following someone else's show, and you start to build a whole level of trust with a whole new audience. And it's really one thing I really love is to be able to use both guest podcasting and your own show, because together they work really beautifully. And I'll talk a little bit about why that is, and why, if you have both your own show and you're doing guest podcasting, and you don't have to do it that way. I mean, you can pick one or the other and choose it to go that direction. But if you have both, it really fills out your ecosystem, your marketing ecosystem. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a bit. And we are going to look at the essential tech that you need and make it really simple. My equipment is pretty simple that I use. It's not the most pricey equipment out there, but it definitely is. It's good quality equipment. And I think that's what's really important about that. And then we're going to also talk about your messaging platform and how do you develop yourself as a thought leader, as a trusted leader that draws in your ideal clients, because that's why we want to do this, right? Is we want to be bringing more clients into your business. So does that sound good to you guys? Give me a big yes if you're excited about that. Oh, I'm looking through all here. I'm loving seeing where everybody's coming and joining us from. And so give us a big yes that you're excited about this, and let's dive in. So I want to start with just talking a little bit about the market today, because the market is different than it has been ever in our careers. And one of the things that is really interesting, I think, is we are in the world of the rise of the savvy buyer. Buyers today are very intentional. They are taking a lot of time to do a lot of research before they ever dive in to saying, I want to go have a conversation with you. So Google has done some research, and they've come back with some stats that says that your users, your people, your prospects, your customers coming to you have consumed up to 7 hours of your content across 11 different touch points. So maybe they've seen you on social media, maybe they've seen you at an event, maybe they've seen you on, listen to you on a podcast. So across 11 different touch points, and they're listening to up to 7 hours of your content. That's a lot of content, and across 4 different channels. And so that client is actually binging long form content so that she develops this trust level with you. And this is why podcasting is so amazing, because this is one of the ways that the best ways that we can really bring long form content out to our clients and to our prospects. So when she lands in your world, when she gets on a call with you, she is saying, I feel like I already know you. And that's what you're wanting to get to, right? It's like you want them saying, oh my gosh, I've been listening to you. I've been binge listening to you. And I feel like I know you. And this happens to me all the time because people are listening to my content over and over. And so podcasting really is going to shorten your buying cycle and build this true resonance with you. And that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. So by the time they've gotten to you, they've done their research, they've listened in, and they're already halfway to yes. So that's a great thing about podcasting. The next part of this is we are in an era of personal brand authority. There's so much noise out there. And when you are putting your voice out there as an expert in your field, you are really, you're building credibility, you're building brand connection, and you're really starting to put yourself out in a way that you are the expert in your field. And I want you to remember that you are an expert in your work. And when you are the expert in your work and positioning yourself there, podcasting is a great way to position yourself as a leader. I often say that you can't outsource your leadership of thought. So you can't AI your leadership of thought. And when you're doing podcasting, it's your voice, right? It's your presence, it's your face. It's like all of this comes together because they're starting to feel you versus something that has been AI'd. And there's been so much AI content I'm seeing AI even in the world of video right now that's showing up, AI video. And what you want to do is podcasting is like the real connection. It's the real deal. And the other really good benefit about this is that you get amazing at your messaging. If you are doing interview after interview, or if you're doing your own show, you are telling your messaging over and over again, and you're telling it in different ways. And I think that's important to tell it in different ways. I'll get into how you do that as we move through today's training. But you get good at being able to pivot and maneuver in how you talk about your work and how you bring your stories to life. And that's another great beauty of podcasting. The third thing is that podcasting builds trust. So we want to build trust first, and then the business follows. And we start to really build what I call a know, love, and trust ecosystem. And I talk about love versus like, because I want the people coming into my world, I want to fall in love with them, and I want them to fall in love with what I'm teaching and what I'm bringing. So it's a know, love, and trust ecosystem. And so often that what we see is that we often talk about marketing funnels. And I actually think it's more of an ecosystem. And let me give you an example of this. And I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I think it's an important conversation as we're leading into this. I have more trainings that I did a training, I think just a few months ago, that really dove into the know, love, and trust marketing ecosystem. But when you're thinking about how people come into your world, what I will say is we always actually start at the bottom of a funnel or this ecosystem, if you will, because these are people who already know, love, and trust you. And you have people in your communities, and they are there, and they've been your clients, they've been in your community, they've attended some of your things, they know, love, and trust you. And then you have new people coming in at the top that are generally you're coming from other people's audiences. And so that might have been from speaking, it might be from guest podcasting. There's all kinds of ways that people can come into your world from, other people's audiences. It can be strategic partnerships. And then in the middle, we've got the love section, which is where you're bringing your education. And this is where you can bring your own podcast into the loop of this. It can be events like this today is an educational piece where you're bringing your voice into the world. And so what you're wanting to do is you're building community from the top where they're coming in and they're able to really dive into your training that you do in the middle. You have people who already know, love, and trust you, and you're providing more content for them to know, love, and trust you even deeper. So this becomes an ecosystem versus just a funnel. And we start at the bottom of this. So that's just something I want you to think about as we look at this. And one step further, what's important about today is that guest podcasting is tapping into other people's audiences. Your own podcast is really tapping into that educational piece. And so that's a good way for you to, this starts to fill out a marketing ecosystem that really starts to create more clients coming into your business, because you're tapping into other people's audiences, but you're giving them a place where they can learn more about your work. So that's all I'm going to really talk about marketing ecosystems today, but it's important because these two pieces fit so beautifully together. So this was one of my clients who has leveraged podcasting, and she talks about, I'm playing bigger, and not only has my revenue grown by 220%, I have been selected as a Forbes Jobs exclusive recruiter. This is Shelley Johnson. And so what I find is that when my clients are getting visible, I always say that visibility is your fire, right? This visibility is how you're getting out into the world. And so this is how we start to really create more clients and more prosperity in your businesses, is by opening up the door to your visibility, right? How are you getting visible? And that's what this is all about. So my goal today is to uplift every single one of you in this room today, and to give you some really great tools to walk away to really do more podcasting, to leverage the podcasting you're already doing. And also, just really that you're going to be able to walk away with new tools and new ideas to how do you leverage podcasting in a great way. I also want to earn the right to continue this journey with you. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we dive into how, we can go deeper into the work that I'm sharing with you today. So let's look at these two different pathways to podcasting. So if you're looking at starting your own podcast, this is a really great place where, you have full control and your brand authority. You get to shape the conversations, you get to set the tone, you get to build a loyal audience that follows your thought leadership. It's a place where you can really create deep audience connection. And this is where listeners tune in regularly to you, this consistency of you showing up every week, creating trust and credibility that really nurtures long-term client relationships and prospect relationships. You're creating community there, right? And then we've got the powerful, it's a powerful marketing asset, right? It's your podcast becomes an evergreen content machine where you are driving visibility and partnerships and business growth over time. So this is a really good way to, just create solid connections in creating your own podcast. The other side of this is the guesting on other podcasts. You're gaining instant exposure and credibility because you are leveraging established audiences and positioning yourself as a leader and an expert without having to build a platform from scratch. So it's a really easy way is to just step into doing guest podcasting, right? You can just start showing up on other people's audiences. And then it's also a fast lead generation. It's where you can really speak directly to your aligned listeners. You can share your story. You can drive traffic to your offers with just really minimal effort. And then it's also an efficient visibility strategy. It's where you get seen and heard without having to go out and create without having to, go out and build your own podcast. So both of these are really valuable ways. Let's talk about why podcasting is so important right now. And these are really fun numbers. So, I've been podcasting for 8 years. And so I've seen this this whole medium change and how people are listening and watching, because people do watch podcasts over on YouTube. And over 60% of internet users are worldwide are now listen to podcasts at least once a month, which is up 45% in 2020, from 2020, excuse me. And then, because that's current numbers today. So that's amazing, right? So that's really amazing. Over 100 million Americans listen to at least one podcast weekly, marking a 110% year over year increase. Amazing, right? People are listening. And I'm one of those. I listen to, I don't know how many podcasts I listen to per week. I probably listen to like 10 to 15 per week. When I'm out on a walk, when I'm in my barn, cleaning the barn with the horses, I almost always have podcasts in my ears. And then another one is, as of 2025, podcast listeners are not only more diverse, but they're also deeply engaged, spending an average of over 30 minutes per episode, which is far higher than most traditional digital content formats. And if you go back to that number that I shared with you early on, that was people are wanting to listen up to 7 hours of your content before they ever even engage with you. This is a great way to get there, right? This is a really fast way to get there. So let me talk a little bit about Extraordinary Women Radio. This is my pride and joy. So it's in the top 1.5% of most popular shows out of 3.2 or almost 3.3 million podcasts globally, ranked by Listen Score. That to me is super fun. I love that stat. And it's because I've been consistent. It's because I have lots of reviews. It's because of the content that how deeply people listen to my contents. I have really high, somebody starts to listen to an episode, they almost always listen all the way through. So these are all ways that help boost that. It's listed by FeedSpot in the top 30 best women entrepreneur podcasts, and it's at number 6. So it's within the top 30, but it's at number 6. And it's been listed in the 10 best business podcasts by the People's Choice Awards for the past 7 years, and won the best business podcast in 2018. So it's, the show has gotten a lot of recognition, and it is fun for me. It's a really fun way for me to market. So what has podcasting done for my business? So I'm about ready to hit 400 episodes on my show. I'll hit that in the next couple of weeks, right? And I've guested on over 100 shows. I've had hundreds of thousands of people that have been exposed to my message. And I want you to think about that. What would it take for hundreds of thousands of people to get exposed to my messaging if I was out speaking? I love to speak. I love to get on stages, but I don't want to be a road warrior. That's not the lifestyle that I want to live. And so the fact that I can reach the breadth of people that I reach through podcasting is really important. Another really beautiful benefit of podcasting is that what I call the collaborative and connection quotient. It has really expanded that. I have met the most amazing women through connections that I've had on my shows that I've entered, when I first started my podcast, I was partnered with the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame. I got to interview astronauts and federal judges. And then at some point I really took the focus more into women entrepreneurship. So then my numbers had, focused, but I've gotten to interview people like Allie Brown and Sandra Yancey and so many amazing female leaders that I get to go into deep conversations with. And that's really super powerful. And so the fact that I have contact information with these people and can reach out to them and have, Tosha Silver is one of them that is my highest number of downloads, is the Tosha Silver episode that was right before the pandemic happened. And I have Tosha's email. I can reach out to her. I can have a conversation with her because, we have built a relationship off of that. It also has really helped exponentially grow my business year on year, and grown my Extraordinary Women Ignite conference that I do every year. It's grown the attendance significantly. It's grown my online attendance, like events like these. It's grown my communities exponentially, and it's grown my brand and my credibility. So this is why I believe in podcasting so much, right? It's because it's really good for our businesses. So what can it do for your business? Growth in your business is the bottom line. It's where you want to get to. It's like you're wanting to grow your business. This is a great way to do it. It's going to raise up your voice, your visibility, and your prosperity. It's going to increase your know, love, and trust factor with your ideal clients. And it's the number one strategy to grow your business. I will say that hands down all day long. The increased podcast listenership, it's going to just get easier to get your message out there in front of more people because there's more people listening. And it's not just about reach, but it's about resonance, right? It's about how people are like leaning in and saying, "Ooh, I like what she said." And I'll tell you, I've had people reach out to me and say, "I've been listening to you. I need to work with you." And that's a powerful thing. And I can say on the flip side, I've listened to other people on podcasts and reached out to them and say, "Oh my God, I need to work with you." So, it can work both ways. And so it's like, this is a good thing for your business. Okay. So, one thing I want to talk about are these 3 pillars that I work with in my business, because we're going to focus mostly today about visibility. And this is all about podcasting, but I think these other 2 pieces are really important. So I just want to explain this part of it. The pillars of work that I do with my clients is vision. So it's the right packaging, the right pricing, so that you have the vision of the impact that you want to create. You have the vision of your life that you want to create, and you have the right packaging and pricing that enables you to create that lifestyle and the impact that you're wanting to create. So that's a really important pillar. So this is just something I want you to just track to these, because I think you'll see why these are so important. Having the right packaging and pricing is really important as if you're going to be being out attracting right people into your business to grow the business that you want to grow. The next piece is the voice, and that is being able to speak your client's love language. It's about really knowing what they need right now, being in their mind, understanding what their stories are. I taught a lot of this a few months ago on my last training. You can catch that over on my website. You can find that. It's also about the thought leadership side of this. And we're going to talk a bit about thought leadership today and how do you position yourself as a leader? And then visibility is where you really light it up, right? It's where the fire comes from. It's getting on podcasts, it's getting on stages, it's putting your voice out into the world. And it's having the right marketing ecosystem to be able to attract clients into your business. So those are 3 pillars. I want you to have that foundation as we dive into this. Where we're going to focus today here is on visibility. So visibility is the fire in your business. And there's so many ways that you can get visible. And of course, the way we're going to be talking about it is podcasting today. And we're going to start with the very first part of this is we're going to start with starting your own podcast. Now, let's just hear from the audience right now. Who has a podcast? If you have a podcast, what's the name of it? And if you're thinking about starting a podcast, also say that. So just drop that into the chat box. And I'm going to pause and take a drink as you guys type that in. Thinking of starting one. Oh, Rain, I think that would be awesome. I would love that for you. Oh, good. So we got some good ones coming in. Thinking of starting one, thinking about it. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes, we women tell ourselves. Oh, I like that one, Kate. Define yourself. Awesome. Disaster to dream home. Jen, I knew you had that one. That's awesome. Cool. So this is where we're going to talk about this. Why you want to leverage a podcast. A podcast gives you instant credibility. When people hear your insights consistently, they start to seeing you as that expert. So unlike social media where content is fleeting, like it's there and it's gone, podcasts live on and on. I have people listening to podcasts from 8 years ago this month. That's fascinating to me that, that long tail of how long people listen to a podcast is really fascinating, right? And it helps you keep building your authority over time because people have been listening. They've been hearing you. They've heard your message. You bring something new out. They're like, oh my gosh, I need to listen. Guest experts and collaborators and collaborations really expand your reach. That's one of the best gifts about having your own show. It's just the number of people you get to have conversations with. It's beautiful, right? And it positions you alongside those leaders. So when I get to have an Allie Brown on my podcast, I get to have a real heart-to-heart conversation about business with somebody that I really admire, right? And so that's super cool to be able to think big about who you'd like to have on your podcast. Because I'll tell you, I've had very few people tell me no when I've asked them. And I've gone really big on who would I love to have on my show. And I've gotten yeses. So it can be really powerful to really help you expand your reach into people that haven't, that you don't have a relationship, but you'd love to have a relationship with. And so your audience really starts to associate you with leadership, expertise, and trust. And then it makes you their first choice when they're ready to invest. It's also your voice builds an emotional connection, right? There's this place where people that a text-based content simply just can't match. Energies get to know your listeners get to know your energy, your values, and your expertise in a way that feels intimate and personal. And that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. They feel you before they even reach out. They're coming to you with a warm connection, with a warm heart. And it doesn't feel like you're selling them because you're in a conversation then. And then your podcast isn't just another marketing channel, right? It's a hub of your content strategy. And this is the powerful thing because you get to repurpose every episode. You can turn into blogs, you can turn it into social media snippets and emails and even video clips. So one great podcast episode can fuel weeks and if not months of content for you, making your marketing much more efficient and strategic. And it's a way that, it just simplifies everything you are doing for marketing. So if you are thinking about starting a podcast, here's some points, and I'm going to walk through these pretty quickly. Why do you want to have this podcast? Get clear about who you want to have as a listener. When I started my podcast early on, it was very much about women's stories and women's conversations. And so that partnership with the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame was fantastic because I was bringing these, really amazing women into my conversations. But then when I got clarity around, my business is very focused. About 10 years ago, it's like, my business is very focused on entrepreneurs. I made that shift. So it was probably about 2 years into my podcast that I made the shift on, okay, this is all about entrepreneurs. And, what are they needing right now? What's not out there that they might use? Know what you want to stand for. There's a lot of different choices you can make. It can be, it can be about stories and bringing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It can be about being very tactical and like delivering like how-to sorts of things. It can be all you, right? It can be simply, it's like, I'm going to be the one that speaks every single week. And which is a fabulous idea, by the way. It's a great way to really put your voice out in a regular way. Or do you want a mixture? Or do you want to be all guests? I mean, these are all just questions you want to ask yourself. And how does this align with your business goal? How is it going to support your brand? A key insight here is a well-defined purpose ensures your podcast attracts the right audience and builds authority. So really think of it. This is a really good tool for that. The setup you're going to need, and I'm going to have Jessica drop a document in here that's going to give you, I'm going to go into more tech later on this morning, but or I guess we're in this afternoon, but she's going to drop a document into the chat that gives you the tools that I use to do my podcast. I use a HyperX Quadcast microphone, and I like it because it's pretty. That's great sound, but it's also pretty. So you can see that. That's my microphone. We use Riverside for all of our, you can simply use Zoom and that works fine. I love Riverside because it actually helps us with all the editing on the back end. I can tell you it's gotten much easier to produce one episode than it used to. I have a great team that helps support me. There's the hosting. I use Blueberry. There's other tools called Libsyn and Buzzsprout and many others. What I like about Blueberry is their customer service is amazing. I can always get on to a conversation with them very quickly and very easily. They're very reactive if there is an issue, which rarely happens. It's a push of a button. Literally what we do when we're publishing a podcast, if you think of a blog that you're going to create, you're creating a post on your website and you're uploading the audio file and you're hitting publish, and that's sending it out to all of the different platforms out there. Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, it's one push of a button that pushes that all out with Blueberry. And Lip Sync and Buzzsprout do the same thing. So it's a really easy way to do that. We have an editor who, edits the podcast, but it's very simple from Riverside because the tools all work. It's an AI tool that helps build all of that together. From a format and branding perspective, and I hit on this already. Do you want to do solo episodes? Do you want to do interviews or a mix? You want to have a name and cover art that stands out. And keep in mind that people are often looking at these on our phones, right? So they're looking at a little tiny thing on their phone. So you need the imagery to be large and the text to be very, very minimal and legible on something that's small. So that's just something to think about when you're creating your cover art. You're going to want to have an intro. So like something that is every week that starts your podcast out. It's going to have some music behind it. And then an outro that again has the same sort of thing. So those things get developed up front. They're generally saying what your podcast stands for and what it's all about. And then, you put some music behind it that has the vibe of your brand, which is always fun to pick out, by the way. And I'm trying to remember there is it's like jungle music or it's jungle something where you can get some great music and go through. You can say what kind of music you really want to have. And, what's the vibe that you want to create. You can go listen to a whole bunch of them and listen to it and pick some music out and have an editor drop that in, you record it and you drop that in. And so that's a good way to, just to develop those core pieces. And then every week they put the core of the interview in between those intros and those outros. So, your podcast is this extension of your brand. So make it visually and audibly aligned. So it's like, what's that feel that you want to create, right? And thanks for that, Alicia. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really affordable to be into podcasting. It's not like you have to have big investments to do that. And we'll talk about equipment here in a little bit more, but you've got the podcasting tool that Jessica dropped in there. So that gives you actually links to all the things that I use. And I think that should be really useful for you. Plan for visibility and growth. So if those of you who have a show, you can leverage some of these tips here, but it's, if you're just getting ready to launch your show, what I'd say is build up like 3 to 5 episodes. I've got a client right now who has, is in the midst of launching a podcast, Dana Kirchmar. And so she's building up a whole series of them so that when they launch that people can go into them right one after another and launch. So it's like you can launch those, and I would launch those more quickly than every week. I would launch them in a quick order. And I would get people out there reviewing them so that, you're kind of pushing up the rankings. You can create a trailer episode to really spark some interest. Look for collaboration partners to help you build your audience. And, when I had the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame as a collaboration partner early on, that was a really good thing because I had them promoting that out to so many amazing women. And the women I was interviewing had huge audiences. And so they were sharing it with their people. So it was a really, really good way to set a foundation. So are there collaboration partners you can think about when you're doing this? Visibility and promotion, go be a guest on another podcast and then mention, I've got a podcast. You're sharing it across your social media, your email list, your blogs, all those sorts of things. Get people to share it and talk about it. Your guests can really, your guests are going to help promote that, and they should help promote that. If they're not a good guest. And we'll talk a little bit further as we get into guesting, but you want people that are going to share this with their audiences so that your reach expands. And then again, repurpose your content. You turn those podcast insights into social posts, reels, and newsletters, all those sorts of things. And what I'll say is be consistent with it. Show up every week and do it. We are 8 years in, just about 2 weeks ago, and we are hitting 400 episodes. So you can see we've hit, just a little under 50 episodes per year. And that consistency is why we show up, how we show up in the ratings, in the rankings of podcasts, is because of that. So That's some plans and for visibility and growth. And now I want to just, mention this. It's like, how do you turn the listeners and your guests into clients? Because both can be potential clients. So it's not just content, it's a client generation engine, and your voice is building trust, right? We've talked about that. The strategic solo episodes are so important. I can tell you, every time I do solo episodes, I get more people to have conversations with, because I'm putting my voice out there in bigger ways, right? So that's a good thing to do. There's higher conversion rates off of those. The listener binging, so people can really start to binge on your work. That's what I was looking at there. Is that people can go binge on your content for 7 hours. Guess what? They're much further along that pipeline to working with you. And you can invite your guests and your listeners into offers and workshops and conversations. I know there's people on this on the tuned in right now that have been guests on my shows. I have people on here who are clients and have been clients on my shows, or have been clients, right? And so it's like, there's ways that this all works together, and it's really beautiful. And you reuse those episodes, and your podcast just keeps working for you long after you hit publish. So huge fan, huge fan, obviously. So now, who wants, if you're wanting to start your own podcast, I'll tell you, one of the things I'm going to offer up at the end of this is about how you can do a private VIP day with me, and we'll develop out everything you need to launch your podcast. So I'll talk about it at the end. I'm not going to talk about it here, because I want to just keep the training going, and then I'll share how you can do that. So, and the cost per episode for it, that's a great question. I'm just seeing that, Janet. I would say, I have I have somebody who edits my podcast in the Ukraine for less than $20 per episode. So we keep the cost down pretty minimal. Jessica, my EA, does a lot of the work that's, like, gets it published and promotes it. So there's more expenses associated with that. But I know there's people out there that are doing, that will produce your podcast for you. And that can get pricey. That can be in the $100 and above per episode. I don't do that. I have a pretty good system that is pretty cost efficient. And that's definitely something that I can share. If you were to do a VIP day with me, I'll be sharing who my resources are and all that sort of thing. So that's a way that we can dive into that. So this is one of my clients, Renelle Everett Dar. So she's just started a new podcast called Conscious Insights, and it's both on YouTube and then on all the different channels as well, all the podcast channels. And she is having the most amazing conversations. You guys should go check it out, called Conscious Insights. And what I asked her, what's this doing for you? She's adding depth through conversation, voice, and presence, offering something that written words alone can't capture. And it's opening doors for collaboration with other thought leaders. She's having some amazing conversations with people she wasn't having conversations with before. And so very, very powerful that what's happening for her in this space. So check out her show. So let's talk about getting on shows. Who is already guesting, and say how many you've guested on, or give me an estimate how many shows you've guested on, and if you are just starting to think about guesting on shows. So just tell us. Cool. So lots of opportunity here, right? I love this. Cool. Kate's been on lots. So this is another great way. And this really starts to get you in, to really start to help you walk in the light as a leader. If you guest on a podcast, you're not just speaking to an audience, you're really stepping into a warm room of already engaged listeners. That's a beautiful thing, who trust the host, right? And instead of starting from scratch, you're borrowing their credibility and authority of the podcast host, making it easier for the audience to trust you and connect with trust. And it's a great way for you to, just start to engage with new audiences. So, we're talking about that ecosystem. This is the top of it, right? And every guest appearance strengthens your expert positioning. So the more people hear your insights, the more they see you as a leader. And being featured on multiple podcasts elevates your authority and makes it easier to land bigger stages, media features, and new opportunities. And over time, you become the go-to expert in your niche. And that's really what my goal is to help my clients is to become the go-to person in their niche, is that they are the expert. And so clients are seeking you out instead of you always outreaching to them. It's like people are coming to you saying, oh my gosh, I've been listening to your stuff, I need to know you. And then a single podcast interview, of course, can be repurposed across all your marketing channels again, right? It's like the same sort of thing that we were talking about with the others, but it's a great way. And always have a clear call to action. This is a good tip for you guys. Have a clear call to action that can drive listeners directly into your world. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's like, it's a freebie or something that they can get more of your work. So, they've come into your world, have a place where they can go next to learn more about you, to really keep that binging going on, right? That's like, what's the next step for them? So one of the things that I find is really helpful as a podcast host is to have a podcast one sheet, because I can get a podcast one sheet from somebody. I can look through it, and I'll talk about the components of this here in just a moment. But the podcast one sheet as a host, it streamlines how I have to prepare. Now, I have people fill out questionnaires, and if they have a podcast one sheet, it really just streamlines it. It's really useful. In a podcast one sheet, these are the items that you want to have in a podcast one sheet. You want to have a good bio, about 100 to 200 words. I always tell my clients, make sure there's story associated with it, that you're not there just pitching a book or something. It's like, tell the story already. Why do they want to tell you? Why do they want to talk to you? I can tell you, I get hit up on any given day. I probably get hit up with 5 requests to be on my podcast. And most of them don't even get looked at because they're just, they're just coming at me at such a pace. And what I'll say is make it interesting. If there's an interesting hook in there of why somebody would want to talk to you, my hook in here is about how the breath of a horse helped me step into this world. People always ask me about, tell me more about that. That sounds really interesting. So find a story hook in your bio and position yourself as a leader. And that piece I can't stress enough. So often I look at podcast one sheets for someone that, that is developing these, and they're not taking the time to really sing out their praises. So make sure that you're positioning yourself as an expert in your field, because you are, and take that and own that credibility of you. Next, you're going to have suggested interview topics that people could ask, that you want to talk about, so they can quickly look through that and say, "Ooh, these sound like interesting topics I'd love to cover," or suggested interview questions. And so those are just something that, and I'll talk about how you can develop these as we get into the messaging part of today. And then, of course, all your contact information so that they can quickly click through onto that. So that's what's in the podcast one sheet. That's what you'd like to have with that. So how do you start to get on? Did I miss that slide? Oh, so how do we start getting on shows, right? So first of all, you want to research. You want to know where you're going, who's the audience you want to reach. Start looking for, asking your community, who are the podcasts that are looking for guests right now. You can start looking at podcast lists and awards, like some of the ones that I mentioned early on. You can go see FeedSpots, who's on that list of top podcasts out there. And you can start, just saying, oh, that looks like an interesting one. You can ask for referrals. Almost all of my podcast guests come from people who are deep in my community that I have met and go, oh my gosh, I need to know you. I'll make my list of some people that I really want to interview, like the high people that oh my gosh, I'd love to. Like when I put Allie Brown down and said I wanted to interview Allie Brown, when I landed that interview, I was super excited because she was somebody I wanted to have a conversation with. But most of the people are people that are already deep in my community that I'm bringing in. So the more you're in community, just start asking people who has podcasts and who's looking for guests right now, those sorts of things. And you can also see where other people are guesting. Somebody has guested on a show, say, hey, can you make that introduction? So that's always another great way. couple great tools that are out there that I love. And these are both on the sheet. And Jessica, if you could drop that sheet one more time, just in case some people have joined since you last put it in there. Podmatch is a really good tool. It's a low entry point to get into where, and I don't know what their monthly rate is, but it's inexpensive. And you basically, you go in, you set up a profile, and they start matching you to podcasts. So that's a really great way to do it. Another great group that I have worked with for a number of years is Interview Connections. I'm not working with them currently, but I have in the past. And if you're wanting to do, like, say, 50 interviews in a year, this is a really good way, because they're actually booking you on shows. And it's a premium offer. I mean, it's definitely a more premium service. But it's a great way if you want somebody to just book you on, say, if you want to be on 50 episodes in a year, that is a really good way to do that, is to leverage a team like that will put you on shows. So there's links in to both of those in the tool that Jessica just dropped again. So let's talk about, you've landed the interview, and how do you be a great guest? And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but these are, I crowdsourced this list a few years ago. And I think that's really important, because as a host, I have experienced both good guests and great guests, or annoying guests. If you would, I've experienced great guest and annoying guest. And what else? Let's start with a great guest. So a great guest is somebody who is a master at their messaging. They know exactly, what they stand for. They know how to weave story in. They know how to engage in conversation around their messaging. They're not getting caught because they know their messaging really well. And I think that they're positioning themselves as a top leader, because I want to bring people onto my show that are top leaders. That's part of the quality of what I bring on my show. And so, be a master at your messaging. Prepare and do the pre-work. You're going to probably get a survey that asks you to do the pre-work, asking you for bios and photos and that sort of thing, your podcast one sheet, if you have it. Do the homework when they ask for it. I think that's really important. It's if you have to go look for that stuff at the last minute, it just takes more time if you haven't done the prep. Have a podcast one sheet. Understand the purpose of the show. So go listen to the show, understand who the audience is, and speak to the audience. Like you're on a conversation with this host. Really speak to that audience and engage with the audience as well as the host. You understand that changing pace and tonality and conversational goals. And I think that's really important. And interesting. I'm sorry about that, Sylvia. I wonder if that's an old one. If that is an old one and I didn't get that in there, I will make sure that it is there, Sylvia. So thanks for letting me know that. Because I've got special links for both of those, and I would love it if you guys would use those links. That would be appreciated. Another great guest is they treat the interview like it's a friendly tennis match, right? It's like I volley to you, and you just share your expert insights, and you volley it back to me, and it's like it just becomes this conversation. Have headphones. I'll talk about what headphones I use. Have headphones so you don't get reverberation back, and a real microphone, a good microphone. Be in a quiet place, share the episodes with your people. An annoying guest. And these were all crowdsourced. So these are kind of fun. Somebody who really kind of flounders in their message. They don't have a clear point they're trying to make. Someone who's late, someone who talks at you and the audience. They just go, it kind of goes down to this bottom one. It's like, they keep talking and talking and talking without any moments to pause. Lord, it's not a TED Talk. That was somebody said that one to me. And that you want a conversation. They respond to your questions, and they respond to your questions with, it's in the book. If you have a new book out, talk about what the book is about and bring breadth, the depth of what the book is about, but don't just keep saying it's in the book, it's in the book. They ignore your questions to instead pitch their product. They forget to turn off their phones or their notifications and their beeps and their text. They this is one that came through. They are driving a car with a dog through a construction site. That was crowdsourced. What's another one here? They don't ask if they could share an offer, and they just drop it into full sales pitch mode. You don't want to ever do that. You always want to ask, is it okay to do that? So you landed the interview, thank them, ask them who their audience is, how can they make this a great show before you even start. You go into the green room before you start. Say, who's your audience? What will make this great? Prep work, do the prep work. We talked about that. Ask if you can make an invitation at the end. Don't assume. And is this show audio or just or audio only or video also? Because you want to show up camera ready. Always listen to their podcast beforehand. That's always a good reminder to just go out and listen to a show. Go listen to episodes so you can feel what the vibe and the energy of it is. If you want to get really great promotion, pick up the phone and do a selfie before you get on an interview and tag your host. I'm so excited to get on the show with so-and-so. Your message map is a great tool to have available. And I'm going to talk about a message map here, but don't script yourself. Stories are much more important. So I'll talk about what a message map looks like and how you really get clarity around what your messaging stands for. A couple last things here. What's the format of the interview? Is it storytelling versus training? Just really know what the energy and what the flow is of the interviews that they do. Who have they interviewed? Why have they interviewed them? What's the mission of the show? How does your message fit into it? How engaged is their audience? I mean, just like these are the sorts of things that you really just want to, that's why listening to the show is a great way to get to the heart of that. So your equipment, I'm going to show with you, and you've got the document as well, but these are different tools. This is a microphone that I used for years, an Audio-Technica ATH mic. This is not the mic. This is I'm sorry. These are the little ear headphones. I like these because these aren't like the big gigantic ones. And they're there. They work for me. So I like that a lot. This is the microphone that I use. I use a HyperX Quadcast, and it's been a great microphone for me. I no longer use one of these pop filters because this actually has one built in. When I use the Audio-Technica microphone, I did use this pop filter. So just if your microphone doesn't have a pop filter, then you should actually have one of these as well. And that catches some of the, like just the pop noises that you might make inadvertently when you're speaking. I definitely have a big, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I have a big arm that I can move this microphone around with. And that's really handy. So I can put it away when I want to. You can use a simple iPhone microphone as well. But if you're going to do podcasting, I would definitely, and this is actually, I'm laughing at this picture because so you can use your AirPods as well, right? But I would say if you're doing this consistently, these are not that expensive to purchase, right? This is a $150 mic. This is a $14 earbuds, right? So they're not expensive products here. I use a Logitech camera. I like that higher definition that I get than what my laptop will do. And I actually have a big screen. I don't use my laptop screen. So I use that. I also use this cool little mount for that. So I can, move things around here if I need to. I mean, you can see what this is a quick little easy way that you're looking directly into the camera and you can still see your screen, right? So that's why I like this little tool. I use this little light. So I don't use, my office is small, so I don't have behind my monitor here, I have a window, which is great because it's natural light coming in. But I also have one of these small little lights here as well. And that ring light, if my office was in a larger space, I'd have one of the larger ring lights there, but this little one works good with the window in front of me. So that's what I use there. Cool. So I'm going to pause there. Let me see where we are time-wise. Oh, we're doing good. Okay. Questions. I mean, if you guys have questions on equipment at all, you can feel free to drop anything in there before we move on. Doesn't look like it. Okay. So cool. Game day. You're gonna be showing up, and this goes for, so this equipment and this, just starting to show up as you, whether you're doing your own show or whether you are on somebody else's show. It's like, be you, right? Just be you. I rarely edit my podcast interviews that I do, or even my solo podcast definitely get, because they're much longer, but my solo or my interviews that I do on my podcast, I rarely interview or edit, excuse me. I rarely edit the inside of it, because I want the I want to be natural, right? I don't want it to be just crispy clear. I want to be just me, right? And that's what you're trying to show up. Know your story. Turn off your phones and make sure you have a quiet area that where are your pets? When I'm interviewing, I often will have my little dog under my desk, because then I know he's not going to bark at something, but I never have my Labrador, who makes lots of other noises in my office. So he goes somewhere else because he doesn't bark. So it's like, just know what your pets will do, and just make sure that you have a quiet space. Be camera ready, show up on time, smile when you talk, right? That all day long. If you're smiling when you're talking and you're having fun with it, people will feel that vibe. And that's a really important part of this, right? Is to have fun with it. Then, so how do you really extend this know, love, and trust factor beyond the interview? What you want to do is make sure that you're inviting people, a way to invite people deeper into your community. So at the end, they might say, tell us, where people can find out more about you. And you could say, they can go to my website. They can, try to keep it really simple. Try to have one place where you want to send them all the time. So this is what we do. We have, and I'm saying this with a bit, we're in the midst of a change happening on my website. And I have done this though for the last several years, is I've said, go to my homepage. On the top right corner, there's a get updates button. And you are going to find out that the free training that I do every single month. I do a free training every month. This is where you can go deeper with me. And that's worked really well. We get lots of people signing up for it. Now, we just launched our new website, and we've had some technical glitches, and that button is not there right now. We're going to have that fixed in the next couple of weeks, but right now that button is not there. But that's worked really well. And when they click on it, they put in their email. So then I have their email address and their name, and then they pop over to our events page, is where that sends them, so they can see what trainings I have going on that next month. And they can sign up and they can do more with me. So again, we're trying to get them into deeper content with me. And that's the best way that I've built my marketing ecosystem out, is from that point, I want them going into giving me their email address, and then starting to show up in more of my trainings. So that's a way that works really well for us. You can send them into a quiz, and all of these, you're looking for a way that you're getting their email address. You can send them to a Facebook group. You can send them to a freebie. Time with you. You can say, sign up for time with me. An invitation to something that you're putting on. So just think about what's that next step, and be sure that you ask the host, is it okay that I offer this quiz or this, whatever that is that you're inviting them into, but give them a pathway into next with you. So after the interview, thank the host. Yes, thank the host. That's a good one. And then share, right? That's what you're really wanting to do, is to share, get that out. And I'm going to show you how we are sharing things. So we do memes from all of our interviews. We drop this in, and we pull out quotes that I said. So those quotes, something that I said during the interview, become a social media post. So this is a great way to do this. We use, and then we do mini clips. So we're, we're pulling a clip from an interview, and we do this. We're doing this for both our own podcast for Extraordinary Women Radio, and we're also doing it for guest podcasting. We're doing, both of these, right? So you'll see that happening from both of us, from both sides of this. This is how we're promoting it. We use Riverside a lot because that's where we're recording, and that's going to automatically create clips for us. That's an awesome way. I'm a big fan of Opus Clips right now for, like, for example, we'll take this video, the recording of this video, and pull out clips from this video. So this has been really good. And it's, how do you really pull out viral clips? That's the beauty of Opus Clips. These are some other ones that we've used in the past. We're not using these ones any longer, but this is great. I mean, Riverside is such a great tool because it can go and pull out, you do the interview, your editing happens there, and then you can turn around and drop that stuff into it. So another thing to do is, once you've been doing some guest spots, and if you're this is also if you're doing your own podcast. This is on my podcast page. This is a screenshot of my podcast page. Down below this section here is like all the most recent podcasts that we've done. So this is kind of at the top of it. So a couple things that's really important, because you want to give people places to binge your content. So we have created a Spotify list of all my solo episodes. So if you go to my podcast page on my website, there's a place here, click on, and you can listen to all my solo episodes on podcast right there. We also have the last 3, and you can go deeper into this and see more of the solo episodes that I've done, because I want those to be seen. I want people to hear those episodes. It takes a lot of effort to do those solo episodes. So I really want to make sure those are getting watched. The other thing is a couple things you can do here. When we just relaunched my website recently, we've just included the Spotify list here so that people can go listen to my guest spots here. So if they click on that button, it will quickly take them off to a whole bunch of the different podcast episodes that I've guested on. And that's an easy way to do that. And then down below here are the more current episodes. So that's what that looks like. And, it's a good way. What you want to do is have a place where people can go binge on your content. And then, so when you're thinking about guest podcasting for growth, this is where you get to step into new rooms, build instant trust. You get to borrow the trust of the host. You position yourself as an expert without pitching, and you reach aligned audiences who are already hungry for your message. You use stories and insights to create resonance and curiosity. You lead listeners into that next step, and you repurpose the episode for ongoing visibility across platforms. So this is kind of the how you start bringing more clients into your business is by leveraging these tools and building that out. This is one of my clients, Ruth Kent. She's talked about guest podcasting helped her grow her revenue last year by 32% and take her business into 6-figure plus. It sharpened her message. So she's talking about her message. And I don't think I've said this yet, but your message will get really strong because you're talking about that message over and over again. And it really positions you as that go-to expert. So it's been a real benefit to her in her business. So if you want to start to guest more, I'm also going to, again, you can do a private VIP day with me. And I'll talk more about that here in just a little bit, but I'm just dropping that in here so you know that that's coming. I want to get into your voice. And this is really important. So, we've been talking a lot about visibility, like how are you getting visible? How are you being seen? But before you're doing that, you need to make sure that your message is solid, that you know exactly what it is that you want to talk about, what you want to be known for. And this is what's really, really important. And you want to create a message that matters, right? Really ignite who you are as a leader and be known as a leader. So I teach 3 layers of messaging when I'm talking about voice. We talk about the brand from the inside out. We build the brand from the inside out, who you are at your very essence. And then you have your customer journey, speak your client's love language. And then your one message for the world is the thought leadership message. And that's what we're going to focus on today. We're not going to have time to dive into these, but this one message for the world is your thought leadership message. And this helps you become known as the go-to expert in your space and stand out as a thought leader that gets with a message that gets people to stop, think, and act and do differently. And I'm going to give you some examples of this. You want to be a sought after expert to speak and podcast guest and more. So I want you to think about this question. What's the one bold belief you're here to lead? Just think about that question, right? And I'm going to pause on that because Kathleen asked a question about Riverside. We use Riverside for editing, and we also have a Ukrainian editor. Why too? Because he's actually the one putting the pieces together, and that's not our skill set, Jessica's or mine, to put edit, to do high quality editing. Riverside it makes the editing easier, but I definitely want the Ukrainian expert. I want our expert that is the editor to actually put it together than us, because that's not our skill set. That's why, Kathleen. Thanks. Okay. So if the whole world could hear one message from you, what is that? What do you want to stand for, right? If you had one thing to say to the whole world, what would that be? When we think of Brene Brown, we know she stands for courage and bravery, right? We know what she stands for. So you cannot choose courage, or you can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. This is a great quote from her. So this is what I'm calling a one message for the world. Gabby Bernstein, I let go of my need to control and allow the universe to do her thing. So we know she has all about the universe has our back. We know Malala, girls should learn history and make it. And so I love that quote. And we know she's all about education. We know that. Mine is women's wisdom is the medicine the earth needs. You've heard me talk about that today. This is Dana Kirchmar. She has, what if we stopped asking girls if they're good at math and instead started asking what problems they would love to solve? And in fact, she has, I love hers, but she's just recently come up with a new one, which is not in here yet. And it's on my phone right here. Women leaders in aviation should be the expectation, not the expectation, or not the exception. So women leaders in aviation should be the expectation, not the exception. That is her new one message for the world. She is at an aviation, women in aviation show right now. She's got a postcard. She's handing people this message. Her whole thing is she is a rocket scientist. She isn't as a, so she works in the aerospace and aviation world. She is on a mission to change the number of women in leadership roles in aviation and aerospace, which is less than 3%. So she's on a mission to change that. So, this is like what she stands for. Let me give you a few more. This is Shelley Shell, another one of my clients. When women invest in companies they believe in, our world will change. So she does financial investment. She's actually my financial advisor. She helps me decide what companies should I be investing that is making a change in the world, right? So this is powerful. Antoinette Thompson, midlife isn't a crisis. It's an opportunity for profound momentum and impact. So, changing up, how do we think about midlife? Women's words change the world. That's Vivica von Rosen, another one of my clients. Renelle Dar, who is helping leaders and companies heal and transform their organizations into workplaces of purpose and impact, says, when we heal ourselves, we heal our systems. So again, this is somebody who, it's like, this is what she stands for when she's talking. So your one message for the world, what it is, I want you to start thinking about what yours is. It's your opinion, it's memorable, and it's repeatable. So all of these were short, sweet, easy to remember. You're putting a stake in the ground for what you stand for. It gets people to stop and think and act and do differently. It's not a tagline or positioning statement. It's not marketing. So often people turn these into marketing. It's not marketing statements. It's something that you really want to be able to be in a conversation. You actually say just out in a conversation. And when you say it, oh, Chris, I love that you're putting in there. Thank you. When you say it, you can drop it into an interview and people go, oh my gosh, tell me more about that. That's what you're trying to get to, because then you're really getting people to lean in and say, oh, I want to know more about this. So it's conversational. It's not a quote from someone else. It's an inspiration. It's not an inspirational saying, and it's not a common statement like that you'd hear all the time, like find your purpose and live your life. That's just too mundane. There's no original thought to that. So it's really getting into what is it that you stand for that gets people to stop, think, and act and do differently. So what is it that you want to stand for, right? If you had one thing to say to the world, what would it be? This is where we get into it. And I'm going to give you, when I take my clients through this work, we do this one message for the world. You land on that, and then you have, what else do you want people to know about? Like, there's going to be subtopics off of that. So if we talk about Dana and her message for women in aviation, it's going to be, what are the stats that are out there? The stats are, there's less than 3% of women are in leadership roles in the aerospace and aviation role. What could women do differently? Might be another box. So it's like you're really building out what your message platform is. And this is work that I have been teaching for a long time. It's the thought leadership work that I used to do back in the corporate world many years ago, when I took about 150 people through media and speaker training in the organization that I belong to from around the globe. And they were in a 1-year-long program, and I partnered with Ogilvy PR to develop this tool. And I weave this today into my work with my clients so that they are really, clear on what their messaging is, what they stand for. And it can be really important. So then you go one more, and the power of that sound bite that we were just talking about before I go on to this next step is that it's short. It's 10 to 15 words. It stands alone. It's illustrative. It's comparative. It's comparison or analogy. It's memorable and repeatable. It's attention grabbing. So it's something that gets people to stop and think, right? That's what the power of that sound bite is. So when you are doing this, you build your one message into the world. Then you have your different subtopics. And within each one of those, you're going to have stories. You're going to have facts. You're going to have some subtopics that are there. And you're going to start thinking about, what are the questions that get me to this point, or that get me to this middle point? And this starts to become the foundation of you starting your podcast one sheet. And what's beautiful about that is you're guiding the conversation. And that podcast one sheet is going to give your host an opportunity to go at your content in multiple different ways. So none of your podcasts sound all the same, but they are giving you a place where they, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about this subject down here. I want to talk about this subject down here. They choose that, they lead into that, and then it leads into all these other conversations. Your next host might choose another topic that starts up here, but you're doing the pre-work to really to think about what it is you want to be known for, to define what your thought leadership positioning is. And this is where I say you can't outsource, and you can't AI your leadership of thought. This is where it has to come from you. It's like pulling that out and bringing that to life and knowing what it is that you stand for. And this is what's going to make you stand out as a leader and an expert in your field. So this is Dana. We've talked about her. What this has done for her is defining what I stand for in my industry has opened up C-suite doors, resulted in more clients, more stages, and an ability to create a bigger impact. So it's really opening up the door for her and how she positions herself. So, okay, we've come through a lot of things here, right? We've come through a lot of things, and we've still got 15 minutes here as we wrap this up. One thing that I want to express, I brought this up early on. We focused most of our time on visibility, a little bit of voice here today. One thing is, you are thinking about going into this podcast journey. There's one more thing that you really want to have, and this is a checkpoint I want you to think about. And it's really important to have your foundations in place. Are your business foundations in place? Because if you're going out and you're being visible, and you don't have the right packaging and the right pricing to get your business to where you wanted to get it, if you haven't done the work around your messaging and the voice and what it is that you stand for, your podcasting is going to fall flat. And so it's really important that you take the time to make sure that you've done, do the math. And what is your packaging look like? What does your pricing look like? So that when people start coming into your world, you're building your business that is scalable and it's simplified, and it's a right pathway up that, up into your world. And it's also the right messaging, that you've done the work to get your messaging, really aligned with what you stand for and what your clients' need and desires are. And so that's a question I want you to just to gauge with yourself. as you're getting into visibility, do I have the right packaging and the right pricing? Have I really landed my voice and my messaging here? So as you do that, and often it's just a small tweak, right? And my superpower really is helping identify what needs to be tweaked. If you're looking at this model saying, okay, I don't know if my packaging or pricing is fully there, that is my superpower. I love helping people get there. I love helping people get clarity in their messaging. So that is just something to really think about. So the vision that you're trying to create here is to create this scalable business that gives you more time, more money, and more impact by attracting soul clients through magnetic visibility. And I think podcasting is one of those amazing ways to do that, right? Because you're saving time because you're not getting on a plane to go somewhere. You're really building relationships. You're building community. You're repurposing your content in a way that enables you to, you have so much content that comes out of podcasting that you're never short of content. And then the impact you create, it goes back to how do you reach, when I talked about early on in this session, is I've reached hundreds of thousands of people sitting here having conversations with people. And that's powerful. So the impact that you can create, there's that ripple effect of your voice getting out to talk to lots of people. It's really powerful. So those are the three components of this: the vision, the voice, the visibility. That's what I teach in my mastermind programs. That when people are full blown into my mastermind programs, what I'm going to offer up to you guys today is a little different than my mastermind program, and I'm excited about it. Is one of the things that I love to do is like roll up my sleeves and just be unique. Every person here is unique in what they're doing and how they're serving and what their message is. So what I love to do is like really help my clients dive in and use my leadership, my messaging work that I do, my messaging matrix work that I do. I have a signature approach to really cover your most important leadership messages that you're taking out into the world. I have proven podcasting strategies. I've been doing this a long time. I know all the tools that we do, all the steps we take to promote everything. And what I'm going to offer to you guys is a VIP day designed to amplify your impact and accelerate your client growth through podcasting. And it's a private one-on-one day with you and me where we sit down and we do all kinds of wonderful things. But just to recap what we've covered, you've learned about how having your own podcast can raise up your brand authority and your client attraction with your business. You've learned that guest podcasting really taps you into ready to buy new audiences. And you've learned that your messaging is an important piece of this, right? And you don't have to do this on your own, right? This is what I want to offer up to you guys, is that you don't have to do it on your own. I've been helping women do this, find their client attracting voice and really bring that to life. And, when podcasting is done right, it's a powerful driver to bring more clients into your business. So you're invited to join me for a podcasting VIP strategy day. And I'm only going to offer up a few of these. And in these, if you are thinking about starting, in either way of this, I want to help you position yourself as a top 5% leader in your field and use my signature messaging matrix format. So we dive into how do you speak your client's love language? How do you build out your one message for the world? So we're getting clarity around that. We're building that so that you tie that into what it is that you stand for. And that's one component of the strategy day. And then option number one is if you're wanting to launch a podcast that attracts and converts. So it's like, how do you launch this podcast? We will sit down throughout the day and we will start with your messaging. Then we're going to get into what is your podcast description? What are some name options for you? What's a compelling intro and outro? We'll craft that together so that you are, you have both pieces of that. We will, we'll create some brand guidelines tailored to your audience that's for your podcast. So it's like, what's your podcast, the visual for your podcast. We'll get into the strategy for content themes and visibility and introductions to a handpicked launch team to bring it all to life. So it's like you'll get introduction into some of my team that helps you, put this all together and bring this to life. And we'll just bring your podcast vision into form with intention and strategy behind all the details. So you'll walk away with a plan to get your podcast launched. If you are wanting to guest more, we'll shift that focus. We'll do the messaging. We'll definitely dive into the messaging first, and we'll craft your podcast one sheet and we'll have that professionally designed for you. You'll have a personal pitch strategy and an email template that gets you booked, so that, it's like, how are you getting yourself booked? And we'll get you out on Podmatch and that sort of thing, so that all the pieces are there and you can just start podcasting. You'll have a visibility plan for really repurposing each podcast and appearance, so that you are leveraging and repurposing that content. And if you already have a podcast, Sylvia, we can just streamline. We can apply this to work with your podcast already, right? It's like, how do we streamline this? How do we get your voice? A large part of this is the messaging. Like, how do you land the messaging and then repurpose the content on the backside of it? So, we can definitely work that way. So, your voice is powerful. Let's make it really profitable. My regular VIP strategy these days run $5,000, but for anyone who is signing up by next April 1st, which is my birthday, I have 3 spots available, and it's $3,000. So you can jump on my calendar. We can talk about what this looks like. It's a $2,000 savings off of what I normally charge for a VIP day. And it's a good way to, thank you, Alicia. And it's a good way just to, like, fast track what you're wanting to do in this space, because I've been doing this a long time, and I'm super excited about just, sitting down with some of you and, like, just, in my living room or on a Zoom call, however that works, where we will just actually, dive in and do all the things together and make this work. I'm in Evergreen, Colorado, Ellen. So we can do it either way, whichever way works for you. And it's a good way for you to leverage and jump into this. What I will say is you were born to create impact. Your message matters. Remember that. It's so important. Number 2, visibility is your fire, and podcasting is the quickest way to make that happen. Podcasting will create more prosperity and more clients for you. And it's something that really, takes you to that it opens the door to more conversations with more people. And all day long, I will say, conversations create. And what I'll say is, you were born for this. Let your voice be heard and let it lead the way to the business you're meant to build. Have me as your guide and mentor. If you want to know more about my mastermind programs as well, I'm happy to have that conversation. That link is the same either place. You can go jump in and have conversations with me, and you can say, I'm interested in the VIP day, or I'm interested in knowing more about your mastermind programs. And with that, I think, one more thing for you is, so as I mentioned earlier, I do monthly training. So our training in April is going to be a roundtable, and we're going to be talking about elevating your authority and trust to consistently attract high value clients with this amazing panel of women. So what you will find happening in my calendar, if you go to my website and on the events page, every other month we do a roundtable where I'm bringing other experts in, and we're having great conversations. We held one on podcasting last month, which, if you missed that, it's definitely worth going back and watching. It's out on my YouTube channel. So you can see that. So there's a whole nother, the group of women from last month, between the 4 of us, we had done 2,800 episodes on our own podcast. So we had done a lot of podcasting between the 4 of us. So that's another great place to go listen. But if you want to join us in the one coming up, this is on April 15th. And we're talking about, really elevating your authority and trust. And so that's what we'll be talking about, that one. That's all I've got for you guys today. And I am looking forward to hearing from you, what you've taken away. We'll be reaching out just to hear from you, what your biggest takeaways were. I always love to hear that. Please share this as we will make this recording available out on our YouTube channel. If there's somebody that you think needs to see this, please feel free to share it. And with that, I will thank you all and have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.